Geomancer is actually one of the most cheapest mages in the entire game, thanks to the fact that you only get 3 abilities to master. And while Gaia is not exactly a very useful ability in the entire game, it saves you on MP, and plus the last 2 abilities, it actually saves you some headaches in regards to protecting your party members from damaging tiles, as well as fine pits that would normally cause problems for your party as a whole. Hi, I'm Runner Storm 331. We're back to going over the Geomancer, which is the final job we'll be covering for today. Geomancers are acquired after acquiring the Fire Crystal shards after you escape from Karna Castle. And basically, it's one of the 3 jobs you get immediately right off the gate, with the sole exception of Ranger and Bard. It's also a very cheap job. This job actually made its debut in Final Fantasy III, and they make their return in Final Fantasy V. So basically, Geomancers, like Rangers, also require you to basically keep your party members leveled up throughout the entire game. And as you get them leveled up, they'll have access to different environmental abilities when they access Gaia. So basically, the higher that party member's level is, the more options you get when randomly using Gaia. Of course, you don't get to decide as to which ability triggers out of Gaia. It just comes out randomly. So, and each one has very different effects depending on the terrain you basically fight your enemies in. So anyway, in regards to stat modifiers, Geomancers give you +4 on strength, +2 on agility, +4 on stamina, and +24 on magic. I think this may be one and only job in the entire game that actually gives you pluses as opposed to minuses. And in terms of equipment, they're the only job outside freelancers that equip bells. Bells are essentially magic-based damage weaponry that you could use to attack enemies. They're supposedly used to calm enemy monsters and whatnot. The real massive downside about using the bells is that if enemies have reflect status on them and you try to attack with a bell, it will be deflected back to your Geomancer. So on the flip side, they do get access to knives. So that also works nicely for them as well. But technically, the real prizes with Geomancer is the Fine Pits and the Light Step abilities, which will, depending on whoever's the lead party member, will protect your party member from damaging tiles, as well as Fine Pits. So that's actually, like a Thief, it's basically meant for mostly exploration reasons. So having one party member mastering Geomancer is definitely a must-have in general. So usually, most of the time, I usually have Bards master Geomancer, and that's because Geomancer is pretty easy to master. Not to mention, it also gives Bards accessibility to Fine Pits and Light Step. So that protects the party when he's as a freelancer. And you have those abilities. Applied, that is. So anyway, let's go ahead and cover the abilities that you do learn as a Geomancer. Gaia is the first ability that you will learn upon mastering the first level of Geomancer, and it's also the one ability that most players will get access to when they start as Geomancers. Like I said earlier, it requires you to have your party members' levels in the 10s to access different abilities that will come out with Geomancer, and every time you use Gaia, it's going to be a different ability. Of course, you won't know what it is until you trigger it. Technically, you want to use it for damaging enemies, but on some occasions, you might not get the abilities you do want to see happening. But the higher the level, the more options your Gaia will eventually trigger better outcomes. But some are become quite useless. Gaia does have very useful. It's very useful against Aphrius in the Ronok Ruins up until its 5th form. That's because it won't be able to absorb wind. And you can basically take full advantage of Gust and Wind Slash, but not so much with Sonic Boom. In fact, I could name more, but I'll hold off on that because I won't be able to cover all of that. But there's definitely other sources on the internet that anyone else can find and figure out what they basically get used for. Light Step is the second ability that you get with Geomancer. It's the level 2 ability. Basically, when you use Light Step, you basically avoid damage from floors with harmful effects. This is basically makes going through Xdeath's castle as well as Great Serpent Trench doable, because that way you won't have to cast the float spell from the time magic. And so if you don't have Geomancer, it's probably in a 4-job Fiesta, it's probably best just to ignore Great Serpent Trench, but you probably might have to come armed with a lot of healing items when you go through Xdeath's castle in World 2. Find Pits is the final ability that you get with Geomancer, and basically exposes any pits that would normally be not exposed without this ability. So there are some dungeons in Final Fantasy V that do have pits, and with Find Pits, those pits will be exposed. So it's definitely well worth mastering the Geomancer for that ability alone, just to make sure that your party doesn't fall through unnecessary holes. But there are some occasions where you do have to fall into those holes to advance throughout the dungeon. So keep that in mind. Now, technically, if you want to improve the Geomancer's magic damage in terms, giving it either the summoning, summon magic, black magic, or even time or white mage can help improve it quite nicely. You can also assign blue mage as well, even though it has 23 magic. Basically, if you want to make it more mage, that's pretty much what you should go with in terms of abilities. Geomancers do not really get much with dual casting, to be honest, so it's probably best just to have it go either white, black, time, summon, or even blue magic, depending on your situation. Now, since it can use Nice, you can also give it Spellblade. That could also be useful if you want to improve elemental damage for the most part, but technically it's not really useful for the Geomancer, since Gaia is its primary damage dealer. Now, due to the fact Geomancer does have 24 magic stat, you can also take the Ninja's Throne and apply it to elemental scrolls. So it can definitely get a little bit more mileage. Of course, if you want to protect it, you can also give it the Sarai's Chidori, which will have a 50% chance of evading physical attacks. So if you're more concerned about avoiding damage, you can also do that as well. Now, since Geomancer's Gaia also focuses on abilities based on level with its Gaia, given the Ranger's Animals can also work well with it as well, since that ability also applies on what your levels are at the moment. So giving it the animals will also work pretty nicely with the Geomancer. So that's pretty much it for all the abilities I think it can work with for the most part. So that's going to cover Geomancer. Anyway, that also concludes all 4 of the guides. I will have these highlighted eventually, and I will have them posted sometime during my vacation. I'll probably take a few days off before we do another round of 4 more jobs to cover. I think in terms of, since we already covered Knight, Dragoon, Chemist, Time Mage, and Ranger, and now that we covered Dancer, White Mage, Berserker, and Geomancer, I think the next ones we'll cover are Monk, Black Mage, Beastmaster, and Red Mage. So Monk, Beastmaster, Red Mage, and Black Mage will be covered next, sometime during my vacation. In the meantime, I'll highlight the ones I just did, and I'll post them on, export them to YouTube, either today or sometime this week. So that's going to conclude my guides for right now. Anyway, I hope this will help beginners get into playing Final Fantasy V, and hopefully we'll get this out of the way eventually in terms of the guides. So my apologies about having to get rid of my guide for the job Final Fantasy Jobs guide for beginners. If it hadn't been for the copyright restrictions, that would have been the one source for everyone to go to. But it is what it is. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and take off now. You all have a great day. This is RotorStorm331 signing off. Have a great day. Take care. And I will catch you all later. See you all Monday.